Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it comes from a translation of a message that I received. The translation reads like this. Hello, my brother, how are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? My brother, I am living in a foreign land which is very far away from home. I am in Europe right now, far away from my country. Sometimes I feel like I just want to go back home, but with the things that happened to me, I think that maybe I am okay where I am right now, and this is what this man want, and he made me to sign up this other piece of paper such that I am not allowed to go back and then have a confrontation with him. That is the paper that he made me to sign after I had seen that he had messed up my life. Well, my brother, I met this man when I was 16 years of age. That was when I met this guy. I was now doing my Form 5 at that time. This man, he had bought this other house in that suburb where we were staying. I was staying with my auntie. As for my mom and my dad, they were living in the States, but my parents, they both passed away in a car crash. At that time, I was going through that period of my life when I was now dating this blesser, and when he saw that I was in that state of mind, that was when he decided to take full advantage of me, and everything that he was making me to do, I kept on doing it because I thought that this was the true meaning of true love. But little did I know that this man, he was only there to use me, and after using me, he was going to move on maybe to another young desperate woman like me. I was not desperate when it came to money, because my auntie, she was married to a rich man, and in that area where we're staying, only wealthy people in Zim stay in that neighborhood. But I was desperate for love. I was desperate for attention. As for my auntie, she was quite a businesswoman because they were fighting so hard to get a lot of contracts. So they were always on their laptops or on their phones speaking with their clients. Most of the times they would just fly out of the country without giving us any warning. Tomorrow when we would wake up, that was when they would have left a note for us. They used to leave a note on the fridge, and they would tell us that we are flying to Australia, so we have left such and such an amount of money. Usually they would leave that money in their bedroom, and they would leave a lot of money. Sometimes they would leave money that was equivalent to 2,000, even 3,000 US dollars just for our upkeep. That is how rich my auntie's husband was. So I never lacked in anything. Well, this guy, when he came to view the house that was being sold, it then happened that I was coming from my friend's place, so I was walking all alone, and it was quiet. In the suburbs, you don't regularly see people walking around. This guy, I saw him, he was busy looking at the property, but he was standing outside just looking at the walls, and he was all alone. And when he saw me, he then greeted me, and the way that he greeted me, I saw that this man, he was lifting up his left hand. Well, I said, that is very weird. How can this guy just stand there like a robot, then just lift up his left arm like that? I responded to him, and I continued walking away. I walked for almost 3 or 5 meters. Then I stopped, and I don't even know why I stopped. This man, he then walked to the place where I was, and we kissed each other. Later on, when I was the more that we continued dating, that was when I realized that this guy, when he was lifting up his hand at me, he was actually drawing me into his life using his occultic ring, because this man, he had one of those rings that a lot of people who are in high positions of power wear. Those type of rings, usually they have something like a pink emerald or a pink precious stone on that ring. And this man, he also had that ring. So after we had kissed each other, I asked myself, what exactly was I doing? Because this man, he was old enough to be my father, but here I was standing, grabbing him and kissing him. And we then parted our ways after we had exchanged our numbers. I then returned back home. I continued talking with this guy. We were like communicating as if we had fallen in love for several years with each other. It then happened that the guy kept on coming to pick me up. I would refuse to use the car because we had a chauffeur that would take us to school. I would refuse to go to school with that car, and I wanted this guy to take me to school, but he would not come and pick me up straight at my auntie's house. He would tell me where I was supposed to wait, then he would pick me up. And when I would be traveling with him, since I was very young, he would say sit at the back because he didn't want people to suspect that I was actually his girlfriend. We didn't like start sleeping together. We only started sleeping together after he told me that he had a dream. And in my dream, he had seen that my parents who were in the USA, they had a car crash. They had an head-on collision with a truck and they all died in that accident. I just said, maybe it is just a dream. My parents are not going to die. Then my brother, we then received the bad news from America. That was when we had that both of my parents, they had passed away. So the initial program was that my mother's body and my father's body was supposed to be repatriated from America, but we don't know what actually happened. My mom and my father, they were buried there. It was like bad luck after bad luck. And this man, he was the one who was causing this because he wanted me to be in that situation whereby I was exhausted in my mind. I was stressed out. And when I was exhausted, I ran back to him and he gave me comfort. He gave me so much comfort that even though I wanted to keep myself at least until I had turned 19, that is when I wanted to start experimenting with sleeping with this guy, but I was too much exhausted and I just wanted to be with him. Then he took me to one of his property because this guy, he is into real estate. He buy houses, renovate them, then he would start renting out those houses at a very higher price, and he rents these houses to a lot of people that are wealthy. Then this guy, he took me to one of the properties. When we went there, that was when I found out that there was this other particular room where we were supposed to go and make love. Like when we started like touching and kissing each other whilst we were in the kitchen, he resisted me so much, and then he dragged me first to the bedroom. And when we were in the bedroom, I thought that this is where we are going to do the deed. But after stripping me, after making me feel very hot for him, he then said, I am coming back. And when he went there, he only came back, I think it was somewhere after an hour, and I was already relaxed and I had forgotten about me making love to this guy. That was when he came. And when he came, he was like dressed up as if he was a red garment prophet. I got so scared, and he said I should not be afraid because he was a prophet. And I said, I didn't know that you go to this red garment church. And he said, no, I am actually a bishop. Well, he carried me. Mind you, Brother Nashi, he had left me naked. So he came and he picked me up from the bed where I was lying on, and he went with me into that room that he said that no one is allowed to enter into that room. Even I was only allowed to enter into that room when we were only making love. We went there, and with my young mind, I didn't even realize that we were actually making love before his idols, and he was actually sacrificing me. And the strangest thing that he used to ask me was when he would be on top of me, making love to me, he kept on saying, are you going to give me your womb? are you going to give me the fruits of your womb? So when he said that, unoda here kundipa zvibereko chako, I thought that maybe he meant that I was supposed to give him a child. These were like the fruits of my womb, a child. I didn't know that he was actually harvesting the eggs that were inside my womb. What will happen, my brother, was that each and every month when I would go on my periods, I would see some white stuff that would come out with the period blood. And at that time, I didn't realize that my womb was actually cleaning out all of the stuff that was inside of it, until I started to see that whenever I was on my period, the period blood will come out with some tissues. Then I started to feel so much pain. When I started to feel so much pain, it was just before my 18th birthday. I felt like there was someone who was like, I felt as if in my stomach there was someone that had a burning fire. I would sweat so much, and when I would try to stand up, my legs will shake so much that my auntie would even cry, because I was like the only one that was now remaining that was her relative, because in the family where my mom was born into, my auntie and my mother were the only ones that were still remaining, since their parents, they came from Malawi, and when they came to Zim, they had my auntie, my uncle, who passed away when I was still very little. So my mom and my auntie were the only ones that were remaining after their parents had passed away. So my auntie, she was holding on to me because I was the only thing that reminded her of my mom, her sister, and I was like her only relative. So when she would come into my spare bedroom, when she would say, please get up, girl, get up, let us try to see how you are feeling. And when I would try to get out of bed, and when she would see my legs shaking like that and eventually falling to the ground, she'll start to cry, and she would cry so hard. And that guy, he had told me that I was never supposed to go to any traditional healer, because if I would go to a traditional healer, then they were going to use me for money-making rituals. So this guy, he had made sure that he had like brainwashed me, and I was quite young. I believed that everything that he was telling me, it was the truth. But this man, he was afraid that if I would go and visit a traditional healer, then I was going to find out that this man all along, he had been harvesting all of those eggs that were in my womb, the ones that I was born with. And each and every time when we would make love at his altar, whenever he would say, are you going to give me your womb? Are you going to give me the fruits of your womb? It will get me so excited, thinking that he wanted us to have a baby. The more that I said yes, the more I agreed to become his sacrifice. But later on, my brother, one night when I was sleeping, I saw that into that room. I then saw that in that room where I was sleeping, they entered two doctors, and there was this other man. This man, he tried so hard to cover his face because he was the last one to enter into my spare bedroom. When he entered into my spare bedroom, he was walking backwards, but with the body shape, I saw that it was that same blesser of mine that I was dating. I called out to him. When I called out to him, that was when he turned around. He turned around, Brother Nashi, and I saw that his face was no longer that loving face of that man that I had once known, the man that I had shared the same bed with, made love to. His face was now more like a demonic face. There were thorns that were all over his face, thorns that seemed to even hurt him even more. This man walked to the place where I was, and the man said to the doctors, do what you want to do with hair. Make sure that you remove it completely, and we do not want anything to grow in there. My brother, I started screaming because the pain, it was just too much. It was such a horrible pain. When I woke up, I was surrounded by my auntie's kids and the maid, my auntie at that time, and her husband. They had flown they had gone out of the country. They wanted to meet up with some of their partners outside of the country, and we were like home alone, and I was screaming and screaming, and this was like in the middle of the night. When I woke up, they told me that for more than 2 hours, I had been like rolling over in my bed as if I was trying to run away from someone. I was only able to wake up after the maid had taken the coarse salt, the one that is used to chase away evil spirits, and started sprinkling that salt all over my body. That was when I then regained my consciousness. When I regained my consciousness, that was when we heard that there was someone that was standing at the gate because the dogs were like barking. Maid then opened the curtain while she was standing in the kitchen, and she said that there was a car that was parked there. So my auntie and so the maid and my auntie's kids, they went there to check out if everything was okay. They came back and they said that there was a man who was looking for me. I was really exhausted and feeling tired, but I got the strength. I got up and I went and I met up with that guy. When I met up with that guy, he said that he wanted to take me to another place. We then went to this other traditional healer who seemed to be a very close personal friend, where they made me to sign off those papers and to make a covenant with him. The covenant is that I am not supposed to give birth, and I agree that in my life I will never be able to give birth, even if I repent of my sin, even if I go for deliverance. I will never be able to reverse the curse that he was about to place on my body. At that time, he said that he loved me a lot, and since I was quite young, he was scared that if he was going to marry me, then I was going to go around dating a lot of young boys. So he said that the deal that we were making, he didn't want me to cheat on him. He wanted me to be afraid. But later on, after he had convinced me to move out of Zim, coming to Europe, that was when I found out that this guy, he actually stole my womb. And after he had stolen my womb, he made me to place a curse on myself, such that if I ever confront him, or if I ever go out trying to look for help, then the covenant will come claiming for my life. This man, he is still there. He has his own family here in the UK, but we have stopped seeing each other. Oh, dear listeners, right there was a translation of a message that I received. It was sent to me by one of our dear sisters. Then we had to give you this translation.